What's up, guys? Lord Nick here, bringing you another One Piece related video. Guys, it's beginning. We're getting some OP10 leaks. Card game leaks is giving us some awesome insight onto at least what they are perceiving to be the OP10 Dressrosa leader. It's going to be blue, black Usopp, supposedly. We'll get into the description of him, and then on top of that, we'll be discussing what I believe the SR, Kyros, and Rebecca's might look like. This is some really exciting news. We've been really hoping to hear if we're going to be getting blue Dressrosa support, and from the sound of it, at least from these initial leaks, it sounds like that is exactly what's going to happen. Now, we are going to be getting another blue-black leader, which to me is a little disappointing. I was hoping we'd see something like a blue-purple leader. The reason I want a blue-purple one, it's one of my favorite color combinations that I'd played in the past. I did actually play a lot of blue-purple Croc in the past, but also I think that those are the color combinations of the two Dressrosa archetypes that don't have a whole lot of support for their colors. So having a leader that utilizes both would be kind of neat, using the off colors of the other main Dressrosa decks. Now, note, I would say that the other option would be like a blue-yellow, but we've had a lot of blue-yellow recently, so blue-purple would be something kind of neat currently. But it looks like we're getting blue-black. And how do we know that? Well, with the leak that was revealed, it looks like we'll be having this. So actually, let me move my camera so you guys can see this part, and then I'll move it back for the next stuff. So, the Usopp leader. So, the speculated Usopp leader is going to be a 5k blue-black Dressrosa Straw Hats typed leader. With 4 life, all characters you have with the Dressrosa trait that have a cost 2 or higher gain 1k power. Now, apparently this 1k power was mistranslated. It is actually their cost 2 or higher gain plus 1 cost. So this is similar to the mono black Luffy that we've seen, except it is specifically for Dressrosa characters. So yet again, we are seeing Dressrosa leaders saying, hey, going back to the, hey, you should really focus on Dressrosa leaders. This really feels like a big up for the Dressrosa archetype. One, your leader gets to attack. Now, note you are sacrificing 1 life, so if this was the only power, I don't think this leader would see any play, despite the fact color combination being good. The ability just doesn't do anything for the benefit of the deck unless a lot of the blue cards and black cards that we're getting in this next OP10 leak start coming out with support of increasing your own cost, maybe. Maybe it's something we see. It might be kind of cool. But the second ability is actually kind of the interesting part to me, is once per turn during your opponent's turn, when one of your Dressrosa characters leaves the field due to an opponent's effect, if your hand contains 5 or less cards, draw a card. So far, this is a really interesting and unique leader type. One, it's making it harder for your opponent to do cost-based removal to remove your character. The second big thing is if your opponent does manage to remove your character on their turn, then you get to draw. And here's the big thing. It does not specify it has to be removed by an effect. Oh, or it does say by an effect, but it doesn't have to be like a event is what I meant. It doesn't have to be an event effect. If it's a character that plays out and KOs something or bottom decks it, or trashes it, you get this effect as long as you have 5 cards or less. So it's a really cool spin on it. It's similar to Rebecca's ability about getting card advantage back and keeping you at a certain card number. This one keeps you at 6 opposed to 7, which in some ways is somewhat of a blessing. But on top of that, you have less control over it. It's more or less punishing your opponent for playing correctly. And I think that that's a unique and interesting way to take on it. Do I think that this leader is going to be insanely good out of the gate? Well, right now, based off of the Dressrosa support that we have, I don't think it synergizes a whole lot with the other Dressrosa cards we have. But it does have the potential to be very good depending on what support we see. I would like to say that I am speculating on support that would be supportive of this style. I did not do that, though. So I am got some predictions for us here, and that is based off of the fact that his other thing that he said, which you may or may not have noticed. Oops, wrong way. Why are we going that way? Pretend like I went the right way the first time. Hey, haha, still no info about that, because he was responding to somebody asking if there was going to be a Dofi secret. He's like, no info on that, but it looks like we're going to have a Kyros and Rebecca, both blue SRs. So that's really interesting to me. That's something I'm really hoping for being good. So let's kind of go into my speculations. What can we hope the new Kyros does? And this is my hope in terms of helping Rebecca, the blue-black leader that we already have. Now, note, these are speculations for my deck. I don't think that these are technically things that would necessarily support Usopp, but they're also not, like, bad. So, like, the first one of each of these type of characters, I made 2 for each character. That I did them with the intention of just generic good ability and something that is more of a kind of niche good ability. So this one here, I think, is the more or less generic one. I think both of the Kyros is actually, I made very generically strong. But they are SRs, so I was trying to kind of power creep them a bit based off of how our SRs are going. So if he's an SR, I think he's going to be a 5-cost blue SR with 6k power and 1k counter. And on play, he's going to bottom deck a 2 or less. 2-cost or less character. I don't think that that's super out of the realm of possibility. I think that's actually relatively on curve for what these things do. Now, most of them don't have counter, but I'm also having him have a when removed from play. So this Kyros isn't going to be as sticky as our current Kyros, but if he is removed, you get to take a Rebecca card from trash, add it to hand. So this can get us back a black Rebecca. This can get us back a blue Rebecca. This can give us back the blocker. This can give us back the searcher, whatever the new one's going to be. So I think that this would be a versatile and strong effect. It removes something on play, and then on removal, you get something back for it. And on top of that, it stays a 1k counter in your hand even when you have it. So I think this card could be more or less on the lower power level of it, but it is a character, Dressrosa, mind you, it is a Dressrosa type character, so it is a searchable Dressrosa type character that also bottom deck stuff, which is desperately what Rebecca needs currently, and ultimately I could see this being a relatively strong card that could be utilized by something like Usopp. Now note, I didn't build this around what the speculative Usopp is. We still don't know if that's actually what Usopp will be. These are very early leaks, so these are just expectations based off of what I think these leaks will be. I don't think I am balancing it around that leader specifically, though if that is the case, if that is what he is, if he is a blue-black leader, these would look vastly different, I think. I think it would be something more along like if you have a 6-cost character in play, do this type of thing. Now, the other option that I think they could go with is leaning into that ridiculously difficult to remove aspect of it, but also just making him utility-wise better, right? So he would be a 6-cost, 7-power character. Wow, and he's a 2k counter because we got to creep these 2k counters, guys. We all know they creep them, but he's a blocker. So he's a 6-drop, 7k blocker with 2k counter on him. That's kind of insane. That means he can't really have that much of an on-play effect, and we don't really want him having an on-removal effect. So instead, let's just make him not removable. This card cannot be removed from play by opponent's effects if you control a Rebecca or your leader is Rebecca. So this is something that would be super strong in Usopp, for instance, as we're playing our new Rebecca card, plus we're playing our Rebecca characters, this card would be hard to remove by effect. Like, you target him, but he won't go away unless you get rid of something else first, which makes him a threat in terms of the fact that he can swing, but you also kind of want to hold on to him because he's a blocker, right? So I innately think that this would be a really strong route to go, which requires more or less kind of combo-y pieces, which is what Rebecca likes to do, and to a degree what Usopp will seemingly want to do, which would make him harder to be removed. He is currently a 6-cost, and the reason I'm putting him at that 6-cost is if the Usopp does increase their cost by 1, guess what? This gets him out of Gravity Blade. So even if your only Rebecca is a 4-drop Rebecca, then he's insane. Now, the leader part was just me spicing it to make the Rebecca leader stronger. You now have a really hard to remove character because they have to swing into it, right? Like, this becomes our Jack to a degree. I don't think that the bottom part of it would be used because that would be way too broken. But like Rebecca character, if you control a Rebecca, I should have put Rebecca character in, or your leader is Rebecca. But I was trying to kind of get this out so that we get this out tonight. And these are initial thoughts on it, right? And the reason I did this also kind of synergizes with a Rebecca concept that we go with later. But let's go with the 2 concepts that I have for Rebecca as well. We'll kind of talk about those a little bit. So one of them I think that they can lean into now is giving us recursion that blue used to have. We saw this with a different blue-purple archetype. We saw this with our old friend Crocodile. His Miss All Sunday was a 3-drop blocker. She was a low-power blocker, but what she did is on play returned a event of any cost to your hand. In this case, I am gearing this to Rebecca as a 2-cost, so she's much cheap. She's cheap to get out. She has no power. She's a 1k counter, so she's not super overstated. She is a blocker, and you have to return a Dressrosa type 4 to 6 cost event from your trash to your hand. This isn't super overpowered in my opinion right now. The only real option for this is Truno Bastardo, unless we get some other 4 to 6 cost events, but this means that they could make some good blue or black 4 to 6 cost events in that Dressrosa archetype. You could also expand this out to be something like a 1 to 4 cost, right? And I think that that might be in a better range for it. Maybe something a little bit lower than this even. Maybe make it a 3 to 6 or something like that. Maybe make it a 2 to 6 so you can't get back barriers. Or maybe you do make it a 1 to 6 or just no limit at all. But I'm trying to keep this one a little bit underpowered, a little bit less super creeped, because I think that they might test the waters of allowing this back. The thing about something in Miss All Sunday is she is type locked to a leader type. In this case, I'm not type locking her to a leader. I'm making it universally usable by almost every blue leader out there. The thing is you then have to have a good Dressrosa event in the color to be able to utilize it, and in the cost range. So currently this would really only get you back a Truno, but for a 2 cost to get back a Truno, that's not that bad. It is blue character. I think that ultimately I might have understated this one a little bit, but the next one I think I might have overstated a little bit. So let's kind of go with that. So this is a 7 cost 2k power, and you might be like, wait, this is 7 cost 2k power. Why the hell is this overstated? It's a 2k counter. Okay, all right. Dressrosa type characters you control cannot be attacked by opponent's characters. So I'm giving us a floodgate, guys. I'm giving us an insanely powerful and potent floodgate. Mind you, one of the Kyroses I showed you earlier said, hey, guess what? Can't be killed by effects. And this one is now a 7 cost card who's a pain in the butt to kill. It doesn't necessarily do a whole lot in terms of like its own pressure on the board, but it makes it really hard for your opponent to now deal with your characters because they can't swing into them with their characters, which means they have to go at your face now. It forces them to have to attack you. Well, if the deck ends up with as many blockers as I think we can have, or the blockers that we already have, this can be a terror of a floodgate for your opponent. It becomes very, very difficult for them to deal with stuff. And with something like Usopp particularly, who increases the cost of your characters, guess what? Your characters are, this Rebecca is now an 8 cost card. That's a pain in the butt to remove. And it can't be swung into to killed. Well, it can be by your leader, but it cannot be by characters. So if that's the case, yeah, it's immediate pressure on terms of like, oh man, I'm going to kill your board with it. It's good for tempo plays, right? Like, oh, I'm already ahead on board. Now you can't swing in to kill my characters, right? So imagine this with like 3-drop Kyros, and you have a Coliseum out. Say we're playing Usopp, or say we're playing Rebecca, either or of them, right? And we have Kyros and we have a Coliseum out. Well, guess what? If I don't swing with my Usopp this turn, and I just swing with 2, let's say I have 2 of those Kyroses and I drop this. I swing with both of those Kyroses. Now, neither of those Kyroses can really effectively be killed now. Like, your events are going to be hard to kill them. On top of that, now if you swing into them with any characters, I don't even have to activate the can't be KO'd effect. These are just puncturing 5Ks that are coming at you every single turn. Plus, my leader can swing if I want to. That's pretty problematic for a lot of people. I think this would be an interesting archetypal for the Floodgate, and I think that I prefer the idea of type locking cards to other characters, not necessarily to leaders, so that other leaders can use them, but they are then locked into having to try to use the archetype as well, right? Like, Dressrosa archetype could go to other leaders right now, and the black archetype, or now what will be the blue archetype, can go to these other colored leaders. But the thing is that we make it so that they are better with the Dressrosa leaders, right? And so you have the creative capacity to use them elsewhere, but they're better in their own deck. And I think that's a better way than just hard locking stuff. And so I'm trying to make ways of utilizing that. These are, again, kind of off the cuff, off the top of my head kind of ideas and concepts, right? This Rebecca works really well with the Usopp concept. It works really well with Rebecca herself. And it works really well in tandem with this particular type of Kyros that I would hope to design something like. And it works well with this one or the one before. There are other Kyroses, right? Just having a floodgate protect your characters type of floodgate, where it's not necessarily stopping your opponent from doing everything, but it really makes their decision making and their ability to remove stuff hard. And it can also just lock out decks that don't run a lot of event based or effect based removal. right? Like, oh man, my characters are my only way to remove your characters, and you just completely stopped that. So now I have to go for your face, or I'm going to lose, right? And so this just kind of fits into that kind of style that Dressrosa has, which is very defensive, very turtley. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It is kind of a little bit longer, rambly a little bit here, but in terms of just what we did. But I'm pretty excited. I hope you guys who like Rebecca or like Dressrosa archetype are very excited. I cannot wait to see what we actually get. And, you know, if we get something similar to what I'm guessing, that'd be awesome. If not, then that'd also be pretty cool too. I'm really excited to see we're going to be getting blue support for Dressrosa. This is the biggest thing I've been harping for. This is the biggest thing I've been hoping for Rebecca so long, just due to the fact that I think that if she got blue support, she could be an effective, maybe not high meta deck, but she could obviously fit into that slot that Whitebeard's fitting into now, where he's kind of a looming threat on the edge of the meta, right? He's not necessarily in the meta, but he's always kind of a threat that can pop back up, and I think that she's kind of been in that place a bit, but she hasn't been particularly insane or very good. And I think that this gives more opportunity for deck building and gives her more of a concise identity to the deck that she sometimes can be missing, right? Like, one of the cool things right now is that she has such an open identity that she could be basically anything within the two colors that she has while having to be Dressrosa a bit. Now she can have a lot of Dressrosa support, and the tech cards that you're making are going to be ones that either support that idea of what you're going with, and maybe we get some cool boss monsters, and I'm super hyped to see this. Let me know how you guys are feeling, and maybe you guys are just as hyped, or maybe you have some cool ideas yourself. And until the next video, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.